So there's a new thermal camera in town. That is the TCView by Topdon. This is an iOS supported device, so it works on iPhone and iPads with lightning ports. And we're gonna use it today to see how it works with an iPhone 11 that has a 50 to 100 milliamp short. See if it's useful for finding that short and how to use this thermal camera, kind of how it compares to others and overall use and function of it. Now, one of the benefits to this one is that it's only $229 right now as of this recording. So make sure you guys check out the links down below in the video description if this is a thermal camera that interests you. So let's go ahead and get started with unboxing it and see how it works. So as I mentioned, the camera itself is $299, but there's currently a $70 coupon that you can enable. So make sure you check that box, which brings down the price to $229 for the thermal camera plus tax and shipping or whatever. But the price is there. And one of the things I was just looking at is that the thermal camera is actually a 25 hertz refresh rate. So that means when you're moving an object around on your thermal camera, it's gonna move a lot smoother and faster than other ones. The resolution is 256 by 192. And it has adjustable contrast, which we'll go over that later. The temperature range is from 1022 Fahrenheit to -4 Fahrenheit. Just some use cases. So for our use case, we're gonna use it for motherboard fault finding. So for example, a short on the motherboard, see if a phone is overheating and stuff like that. Let's take a look at some of the other product pictures here. He has a tiny camera, so yeah, let's go ahead and unbox it. But like I mentioned, the link to buy it is down below in the video description. So we're gonna use it for this iPhone 11. As you can see, there's a 60 to 70 milliamp short, although I have a way to make it draw a little more current. So we'll deal with that here in a second. But first, let's unbox this device. So here's the retail box. You can see is really a nice packaging actually. Here's some of the specs of the camera. If you want to pause it and take a look, it doesn't really have much information that I already didn't cover. And this is the TC002 for iOS lightning devices, so iPhones, iPads with lightning port. So if we pop this out, so inside first is the user manual, which is very basic. It's telling you where to download the app. So just search TC002 on the App Store. It says Lightning for iOS 11 and iPhone 7 and newer, how to connect it, just real basic stuff. Now inside is the thermal camera. So this is the actual unit. As you can see, it's actually pretty large compared to some of the other ones I've tested, like the infrared. But honestly, the size doesn't really matter to me. I use it just here in my shop, so it doesn't really matter like if it's that big or small. Here's the extension cable it comes with. This is going to be very useful because you don't always want to be able to have the phone right next to the thing you're trying to scan. So I would say it's a good, probably about a foot long. And then a cleaning cloth, I guess, so you can clean the lens, and a little carrying case. All right, so essentially the camera's here on the front. So you want to face it down because that's where you're going to be working, unless you want to face it to yourself, which I guess either way is fine. Now the app is the TC002, which looks like this. It should pop up. When you plug it in, it'll pop up and ask you if you want to open the app. Now one of the downsides to this is that you do have to manually click. So for example, plug it in. You click allow, and now it brings you here, and then you have to click thermal imaging at the top to get this app up and loaded. So here's what I was talking about with the 25 hertz. You can see I am moving a very smooth motion. Although one thing that happens with a lot of thermal cameras is they click constantly, so ignore that. Let's go over some of the settings. So this very first button here is so you can take pictures or videos. You can swipe here to, or just click video, picture. I guess you could adjust some other stuff too. Not too familiar with all that. But for most use cases, that doesn't really matter. Oh, burst shooting, watermark. All right, next is there's these little markers here you can add to the screen. Just like if you've seen any of my other videos, there's like little, you could put a dot, like you want to see what the temperatures are in different spots, and then you can delete here. You put a line to see the temperature range from there. Plane, I don't know what that does. I think just auto. I guess it just puts dots wherever, or full image. But if you don't want anything on the screen, that's fine too, because oftentimes I just use the heat signature, like the brightness of something lighting up. All right, so next is this button. Honestly, I don't know what this one does. I guess you can add a picture on there. It's not really clear. Drag image, pinch to zoom. I don't know what image is talking about. So they just go on transparency. I don't know what this is for either. Zoom in. If you want to zoom on the camera, that's digital zoom, so it's not really gonna make too much of a difference. Next is the little icon here, so you can change the colors. Personally, I like the one that's on right now, the iron oxide. You can see all the different colors. But for board repairs, I found that iron oxide gives the best view as to where the short is at. Next is the settings, another settings. Brightness, you can adjust how bright you want the thermal image. So this is actually something you're gonna have to use a lot, where you have to adjust the brightness and then the contrast as well. So you see how it kind of helps pinpoint certain sections of the thermal image. And then the little sidebar here, you could enable and disable. You could also unlock that so you can adjust the temperature range. And then lastly is this little button here. So if you want to work between -20 and 150 Celsius, you have it there. If you're going to be from 150 Celsius to 550 Celsius, then you change it to there. Give it a second because it's calibrating. And then click the lock. And I think I'm not hot enough to really register here. So let's go back to the other mode. Actually, it might have been the contrast and the brightness. Let's go back to this one. It's calibrating, so it's taking a little bit. All right, so we go back to the settings, adjust the contrast, and we could adjust the brightness. So let's go ahead and actually test this out on a motherboard. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unplug it. I'm actually gonna bring out the little lightning cable that it came with, so I can kind of show you a little bit of the use case. So you plug in the lightning cable here, and then you plug in the extension to the thermal camera. And then one thing you'll notice here on the upper right of the screen, it says connected. So that means the thermal camera is detected. And thermal imaging, just give it a second to calibrate. All right, so you can see I can now have the phone or iPad, whatever device you're gonna use, sitting freely on one spot, and then I could use the thermal camera to point it at whatever I'm working on. So I wish there was a kind of factory reset setting here, but I don't see it. Is this setup, this motherboard here, and I'm going to show you kind of how you would use it on a motherboard. So for now, with no stand, now if you're familiar with my channel, I sell a Seek stand for my Seek Compact Pro, and we actually might use it for this one. So first, let me just show you if you were to just buy the thermal camera and use it right away. So I'm gonna push power. We have a short here, and let me see if I can locate the short. All right, I see the motherboard here, but it's kind of difficult to do this because if you notice, I bring my finger in on the left side and it shows up on the right side on the thermal, on the app. So one way to fix that is rotate the camera. Now when I bring in my finger on the left, you can see it's on the left. So now it's like a lot easier to try to maneuver this. So looking at the board, the further away you are, the little more clear it is. And you see there's like 80 something milliamps being pulled by the board before we prompt to boot. That means there's a short on the motherboard. This should not pull any current before I try to prompt to boot, which it is doing right now. But if I bring this to the board, I can kind of see something going on here. So let's mess with the settings to see if we get a better view as to where the problem might be. So let's switch to the -20 to 150 Celsius setting here. See if that makes a difference as far as finding the shorted component. There you go. That gives it a much clearer view. Although pinpointing the exact source of the short is a little tricky. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mess with some of these settings. So the contrast, this is bring it up, down, okay. Let's do there. Brightness, bring it down. All right, one thing also is there's the little temperature markers here. It might be a little hard to see, but there it says 32 degrees Celsius here and then 22 degrees over there. So definitely pinpointing, the software itself is kind of pinpointing where the short might be. Let me adjust these. Now let me unlock this as well, and maybe I can adjust the settings there to see if we can spot where is that short. If we go here and click delete, so on the second button you can put the dots. Maybe I'll do a line. Delete. Yeah, maybe full image, and then what you can do is look at the temperature that show up there. You kind of, I think this can use some improvement because I can't see that text really easily. Let me see if I could put this up closer to you guys. And all right, I suppose I could take a picture of this as well, but it's relevant right now. Maybe if I change the temperature range, see if this helps. Let it calibrate. All right, so let's push that lock button. Let's change the contrast, brightness. All right, if I bring it up closer, and then what I can do is push power off. So we essentially stop the short, turn it on. So just do on and off. Can you guys see that on the board? So it's a little hard to see. Now I wonder if attaching my macro lens might make a difference. Give me 1 second. Let me give that a try. All right, so I'm basically holding my macro lens over the TCView camera lens, and if you take a look at the board here, look at that, you can actually see much clearer where the short is. You can see, you can actually make out the shape of the board and the components. So maybe Let me know in the comments, do you guys want me to make a adapter or a macro lens for this camera? Let me know. But take a look. 50 or more like 90 milliamp short. You can spot it there. So let me leave it on. Let me adjust some settings. Look at that. You guys see that? So definitely the macro lens made a difference. Let me remove it. You can still kind of see it, but you have to be far away to kind of see a clear picture of the board. I would say this is a pretty decent thermal camera, especially if you can get this macro lens to attach to it. Maybe I'll make an adapter for it. Or you could just technically just glue it on with like B7000, although then it's a permanent install. And then the other downside to this thermal camera is that you do have to manually adjust the brightness and contrast to give you a better view. But for $229, I'm not sure if you can beat it. Now, one thing you could also do, so I sell a thermal camera stand. This is for the Seek Compact Pro, but technically we can attach the iPhone, use the exact same cable that it comes with, and then with some double-sided tape here on the back, we could technically glue it or attach it here to the bottom. Then we have a thermal camera stand for it. Now, let me set that up. So I have some 3M double-sided tape. It just happens to be the same width of my stand, which is good. And what I'm gonna do is just put some here on the back. And that's the nice thing about this thermal camera is there's a flat surface here, so we could just essentially stick it on the bottom. And there we go. We've modified the Seek stand to work on the TCView stand. And then we now have a hands-free operation of the thermal camera. So let me actually record this so I could show you guys on the screen what this will look like. So I don't know what the video looks like. Maybe I'll do screen record. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put the board, let me zoom in to the board here. So you can see my finger is showing up on the bottom of the screen, which matches how I have this on. I'm looking at it in front of me. And then you can see the DT80 is showing 90 milliamp short, and I can adjust the height of the thermal camera. Now let me see how I can stick this macro lens to, all right, just as a temporary, I double-sided the macro lens on there as well. So now what I'm gonna do, now that's not an ideal solution, just what I came up with while I'm here right in front of the recording. So look at that, actually it looks really clear. Now the annoying part is those numbers on the screen, so you have to go click delete here on this setting. You see that very clearly. Wow. And take a look at that smooth refresh rate. There you go, you can see the short. Now let's adjust some of these settings and see how we can improve how I get that. There you go. So basically bring up the contrast, just adjust the brightness just to a certain point where it doesn't kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but wash out the image. So if Topdon can make this where it's a little more automated, where it'll kind of auto adjust the brightness and the contrast, I think that would make this way better thermal camera. So let's see, I've changed the setting oh, it's calibrating. So I changed the setting, the temperature range, there's the 2 ranges, to the lower one to see if that makes a difference as far as clarity. And so now I gotta bring this down. So one of my favorite things to do in these cases is to turn on and off the DT880 so I can trigger the heat to kind of pulse, which makes things a lot easier to see versus just a solid light. Then you don't really see whether it's, you can't really tell the difference. Look at that, actually that looks pretty good right there. So if you have a board with the short, you can use this kind of configuration. So brightness is down, contrast is midway. The pseudo color board thing here on the side, it is locked to default. And then I have the temperature range setting on the lower mode versus the higher one. The color, I have iron oxide. I don't know what this button does. I already kind of play with it. I guess you can zoom in, but I have digital zoom, so I don't know. I'm not a fan of digital zoom. And then if you want to put markers here on the screen, then maybe pick the full image, and then it'll auto detect where the highest temperature is. So if you can't visually see it, you might be able to use this as a way to find it. Now, one thing is if I put my hand over, it does kind of show up in the thermal image. So what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments so far. As far as thermal camera, I think it's pretty decent for the price and everything. Now the real question is, let's compare this to the Seek Compact Pro. So let's plug this all in. All right, so this is the Seek Compact Pro with my macro lens, and we're gonna install it with, all right, connect. All right, so now one of the benefits to the Seek Compact Pro is that you can adjust the focus. So let's put that area back in view. So depending if you're further up, you might have to focus one way, and further down, and there you go. Look at the difference in the image. I still think Seek Compact Pro is better, but it's also more expensive. It's more like $450 price range. Look at that. It actually looks really clear. But here's this is 9 hertz. So you can see the motion blur, not motion blur, but how smooth the image is here compared to the TCView. But this one actually pretty good as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments as far as the performance of the TCView versus this one. There you go. You could clearly see there's a short there. So what do you guys think about the TCView thermal camera? It is a $229 thermal camera right now on Amazon. So if you enjoyed the video and you think this is a good thermal camera to buy, I will link that down below to the Amazon store. You can buy it right now and get it through Prime shipping. So you get it right away. So one of the benefits that I do like the most about this is 25 hertz refresh rate. It's very smooth motion on the thermal camera. Also, being able to adjust the brightness and contrast to make the short more visible on the screen is really helpful. And I do like the flat back because it allows you to attach to my Seek stand, and then you can attach the macro lens and just make it so much better. So I will link to those down below. I will also link to my t-shirts as well. So if you want to get a shirt like this and support the channel, I'll have that in the video description, as well as links to the repair wiki. If you want solutions for different devices that are crowdsourced, I'm constantly posting their new repair guides, so check that out. My locals community, so if you want to be part of my live streams, you have to join the locals community, which is linked down below, and some other cool stuff like courses, my recommended tools, and so much more. So check all that out. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. I will post thermal camera video here that you guys can check out that I did a while back. So thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.